Hello and welcome back to some more Higurashi When They Cry. In the last episode, Reina got her fingers crushed in the doorway because she was being creepy as hell. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back into it, shall we? This should be close to the end of Onikakushi. At least I think it's close to the end anyway. But let's go ahead and get back into... That was the end of chapter 11, so we're going into chapter 12 now. And it's waning. Oh no, what we're gonna do is waiting outside. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on the top of my futon I used to barricade my door. He was just there waiting, watching, watching just in case someone tried to break in through my window. Sometimes, like, the way I think about this game just kind of scares me because I'll say something and then the next line will be exactly what I said and I'm just like, what the fuck? Do they know? Are they watching me? If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying, and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. He's going paranoid. I tried telling myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. Yeah, you do. If you stay awake for like... I think 4 days, you just die. It was so much better to just stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside, but that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Reina was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time. But I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable, but if you stay home, they're going to come after you. So staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi-san wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he, nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. Then I fell asleep. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Is he going to do like a Demon Slayer breathing technique? I hope he does. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. Alright, let's go to school. Let's do this. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength, and entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to Reina or me on, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now, and considering what would happen if I ran into Reina or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to just go to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi Maibara. The only one who gets to decide today if today is my last is me. Sure, whatever you gotta tell yourself. He walks to school. He's swinging the bat again. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Reina arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Reina said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Sadako and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen. Though, it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Oishi-san shared about Reina's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Reina as a cute, ideal girl. She's a crazy psychopath. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the nationals, huh? Mion. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion. If you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. I gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tactfully keeping Mion from getting any closer. Hey, Kei-chan, take it easy. I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homeroom's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did you get into baseball? Just recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally, she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. Not today, though. Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility. Hold on. Okay, I didn't miss anything. But we were at school, in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying around the bat with me. You should probably start running, Keiichi. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again later. Now is fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judge the situation to be safe. Talk to you alone away from the others, that's out of the question. Well, Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oishi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire. This old man's just no good at this stuff. Having a poor vocabulary hurts. And what's this all of a sudden? You have something to say, just say it. Stop it. Stop that swinging. She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank, I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last day you swing that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Why? It's none of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Mion was at a loss for words. But she finally made up her mind and spoke. Though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Huh? Yeah, he transferred. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie. But strange, isn't it? For the older brother to transfer by himself, while his little sister stayed behind. Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up. Kei-chan, you knew? Satoshi Hojo. Sadako's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year. Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Reina asked the same thing. Why did you start swinging that bat? She told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings, right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen for Oyashiro-sama's curse? Shh. Mion panicked and looked around. Please, Kei-chan, don't mention Oyashiro-sama so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Reina especially. Dangerously so? Anyway, she looks pissed. You're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. I wasn't the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? But it still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, You didn't want to scare me? That's your reason for leaving me out? No, we didn't mean to. Mion, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? And you told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered and murdered. You lied to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Isn't that right? Then you all aren't my friends. Kei-chan, Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mion acting like this. Is this Mion or is this Shion? Oh, by the way, those get well mochi you brought me the other day, they were good. I thought I was going to bleed. Who did it? You? Or Reina? Me. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was. You could have killed me. How could you do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. Mion gave me a wry smile, mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me. You think that was a prank? I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce on a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I would swallow that and it lodged in my throat, what did she think would happen? What did she think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion Sonozaki I knew anymore. Anyways, you're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. So just leave me alone for a while. Got it? Mion wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know? The cops might have been onto you from the start, so don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous incidents, too. I also know you spent a lot of time with the cops ever since the anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide it from me. Got that? How did you know? Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? Right? At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. You're so mean, Kei-chan. Me. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going. Don't be late for homeroom. I left Mion still shaking as I turned around to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter as she was speaking to herself. What did she say, though? So that's how it is. Huh? She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice that had kind of a giddy, cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was that bastard. He leaked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at that spot on the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. This transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Reina's. I should have killed him back then. He forgot the mercy I showed him just because he was going to retire this year. Retiring this year? Was she talking about Oishi-san? Damn it. Damn it. I'm going to kill that damn old man. Urgh. Well, Oishi's fucked. I felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world had begun to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I'd experienced such a visage. Rise. Attention. Mion made up an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Reina nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Sadako nor Rika-chan looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred in, it had been almost too much fun. That was all. Wait, he's only been there a month? Really? School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous school day, which had felt so tense, yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join into the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. And then he leaves. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath in the recesses of my heart, achingly I knew. This would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless, in my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere, mixed in with their shrieks, Tomitake-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I will be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. Bwee, bwee, bwee. There was still much of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. Now he's listening to bugs. He's definitely going crazy. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they had huddled together, fearing that the person who'd brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all of my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long. But in this moment, when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No, since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I'd hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Reina, just like yesterday? If it was Reina, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Reina, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. I could tell that the fear I had beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. Is it Mion? No, it's Reina again. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Reina. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Reina that I knew. It's the psychopath. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly. And in her right hand was an axe. Oh, it's happy fun murder time. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare? Baseball, practicing my swing, there were tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that axe? There was no excuse for that. An axe, just like that? Keiichi-kun, are you playing hide and seek, I wonder? My heart was pounding. Hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. You're being chased after by someone with an axe. I'd be running. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here. Were you trying to scare me, I wonder? I decided that it would be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than allow Reina to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readying myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree. I found you, Keiichi-kun. That's terrifying, man. Reina was pleased that she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of vicious, hot and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. Not good. Not good. No, this is definitely not a good situation to be in. I'll be devoured by Reina at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose. What is it? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Reina didn't flinch one bit. Just the same as Keiichi-kun. I'm heading home. Then what about that axe? Then what about that bat you're holding? I'm practicing my swing. Then I'm treasure hunting. Reina gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting? At the treasure mountain near the dam site, I found a new cute thing. Yeah, I don't believe you. So I needed this to dig it out. How could I believe that? You wouldn't believe it, would you? The fact that you're laughing makes this far less believable. Reina's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Reina's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious. Wait, Keiichi-kun. Reina didn't stop walking, even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Reina got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Reina and was trying to escape. Don't follow me. I can't do that. My house is this way, after all. When I met with Reina on this road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Reina didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Reina and me was the same, that's fine. I just changed my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. Reina saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go home down the street you normally do. Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror. Because I want to talk to Keiichi-kun. Keiichi-kun wants to talk to Reina too, doesn't he? Doesn't he? Yeah, I don't want to talk to you while you got a knife, like a big axe in your hands. I don't want to talk about anything with you. That's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there? Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies! Again, with the lies. Reina's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only thing I could do was increase my pace. Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk. Why was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street? Doesn't Keiichi-kun have something he's worried about? Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. I'd be very, very worried that she's trying to bury that axe in the back of my head. Lies! Even though I was running, even though Reina was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away? I know. I really do know. You're scared, aren't you, Keiichi-kun? I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies. She just keeps laughing. My breathing grew heavy and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Reina wasn't even breaking a sweat. I'll listen. This time I'll listen. I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do. This time I'll listen. It'll be different from the time with Satoshi-kun. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Reina was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop. Satoshi-kun was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time, but I didn't listen. I was so sad. Where did the street connect to? All these twists and turns, ups and downs. It was hard to believe that this was even remotely in the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window. I really regretted it when Satoshi-kun transferred out. I thought that if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that. The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting farther away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm. So you see, I vowed. I vowed that if there was someone struggling like Satoshi-kun did, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again. I don't think she really means that she's going to save Keiichi here. I think she's going to save him from himself. Damn it! What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi. Come on, Keiichi-kun, talk to me. I'll be able to understand you, Keiichi-kun. I'm your ally. I started wheezing, out of breath. My lungs were so hot that they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought. If Keiichi-kun doesn't have anything to worry about, he'll go back to normal. Everyone will be back to being friends, and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time we'll team up and beat Michan. Yeah, how much fun would that be? Reina couldn't even imagine how much I had wished I could turn back the clock on these past few days. You could be nice to me again, too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, we could just go right now. Let's go up to the dam site together. I'll show you the cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it, too. My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Reina's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Reina. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled beneath me and I crumbled towards the ground. He tripped and fell. Oh no. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Reina was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Reina was so cool and composed, she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. Rather, I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating. Are you afraid of something, I wonder? It's not like you to tremble, Keiichi-kun. I'm very worried about this girl standing in front of me holding an axe. Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, Reina's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. Then as both her hands met above her head, the axe that she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It was all I could do. Keiichi's about to get isekai'd, boys. Tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Reina stayed like that, with the axe raised above her head, and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never to see again. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. I told you. Satoshi-kun transferred. Out. Enough of that transfer crap. ... It means demoned away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? ... You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you? Mion? Or someone in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but Reina did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face. I have no idea what Keiichi-kun is talking about. Then I'll say it in a way that so you do. Who is the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths? You seem to be confused, Keiichi-kun. What? There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will. Isn't Oyashiro-sama's curse just a superstition? You believe in that too? It's not about believing or not. Oyashiro-sama exists. Period. Reina's gaze grew even more gelid. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's just no way something like Oyashiro-sama could exist. You don't believe in Oyashiro-sama? There's no way I could believe it. There's no way it could exist. It exists. Oyashiro-sama exists. Keiichi-kun should have felt that personally. I never felt something like that. Keiichi-kun, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before? Constantly on top of that? All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Reina's voice resounded, loudly and terribly. You see, until you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school, at home, at your bedside. I couldn't understand what Reina was saying. It came to me too. Oyashiro-sama did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa. I don't understand. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Reina saying? Hasn't Oyashiro-sama come to you as well, Keiichi-kun? The shadow thing that's been following us? I'm probably the only one who you can confide in. I won't let you transfer out, okay? Reina's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Reina saying Oyashiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about that when I asked about Reina. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? Oishi-san began speaking. Neither the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter, so all these details are just what I heard from those involved. Meaning it's not that credible. You said there were victims? Didn't Reina just break all the windows? No, Reina Ryugu had attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises, but the other had been injured so badly that one of his eyes was permanently damaged. Wouldn't that be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to the police, so they were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally, there would have been a criminal investigation, but why didn't they press any charges? Oops, I accidentally right-clicked. I tried asking the 3 male victims for their side of the story, but they were all reluctant. It's hard to say, but they were all afraid, even after she had transferred schools. Oishi-san, could you summarize it starting from the beginning? Reina hit people while she broke the windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. Which came first, the beating or the windows? On an undisclosed date, Reina Ryugu was conversing with 3 male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? I can't reveal their names, but they were close to Reina Ryugu, and it seems that they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl in their group, so it wasn't that strange that the 4 of them were together. So, what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat and was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down one after the other. What? There were no witnesses? This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Reina and 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather, they usually met up there. It appears it became a heated discussion. At that time, Reina underwent a change to the psychopath we know and love today. The change was so abrupt that the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening, and they started getting their asses beat. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after the other. Oof. Leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their head, she made her way towards the school building. Started shattering all the windows. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on scene and subdued her. What was this change Reina underwent? Well, you've already seen it. What matches up in the statements from the 3 students was a sudden change. The point was that there was a transformation. I also could recall Reina's transformation. I'd seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Reina that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like Reina. That transformation they're talking about, had it happened before? No, there was nothing like that. As far as I could find out, in her medical history and past, there was nothing like that. Does that happen often? Where people change suddenly like Reina did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that could cause something like that. Then you're saying that there was a dormant element in Reina that caused the transformation? I cannot say for certain. But according to the statements of her friends, it's hard to believe she had such a side to her. Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat, who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believe that I was mistaken for thinking that was Reina, even now. Then, what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school, so the 3 of them were carried in and treated quickly. What about Reina? What about the police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they are called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage? Why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason why they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you, after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah. But I told you at the beginning, didn't I? That the victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk, didn't want to touch it, didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oyashiro-sama's curse. Did the teacher at the school tell you anything? A school is a hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep their scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. Then there was no comment from the school? No. They denied the incident even happened. It's just 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was in the hospital records. The victims didn't speak, the school denied it happened. Then you don't know anything at all. Yeah. I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. The victims also wish this incident to be kept from the public, so if you and I both forget about it, Maibara-san, then this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were so obscured by roiling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if they never existed to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school. And during that time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from that doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics. So nothing. Or at least very tight-lipped. Nothing even after you showed them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself has no legally binding authority after all. Then how did you know that Reina confessed that it was Oyashiro-sama who did it? There was a nurse I asked in that department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. Then what did she say? Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently all she remembered was what she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said at that time, Reina Ryugu was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Reina for a while. The part with Oyashiro-sama, when did that pop up? Partway through. She screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. It was Oyashiro-sama! Reina suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectively asked Reina to have a seat. What is this Oyashiro-sama you speak of? Gently, ever so gently. The fundamentals of counseling were believing what you were told. Whoever abandons Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oyashiro-sama. And they finally gotten to me. That's the town you lived in before you moved here. Isn't that right, Ryugu-san? I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to. But Oyashiro-sama wouldn't allow it. Ryugu-san must have lots of friends in Hinamizawa. Even now you must be missing them dearly, don't you think? I want to go back. Back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to go back. I have to go back. I should have gone back much sooner. But now it's too late. Oyashiro-sama has come. Oyashiro-sama is the name of the god in Hinamizawa, isn't that right? Everyone knows. It's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. And if you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you'll incur his wrath. You had moved quite a while ago, didn't you? Then it was just now that this god has arrived, is what you're saying? You might not believe me, but Oyashiro-sama exists. That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. That it was Oyashiro-sama's doing, right? I do believe there is some kind of superstition in Hinamizawa. That if you leave the village, then you incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath. You should be familiar with this part, Maibara-san. I knew very well about those scorned by the village and incurred. To hinder the dam construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. Then the following year, Sadako's parents, supporters and leading advocates for the dam, were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I have heard of the curse incurred by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by the village, but also villagers who leave? Normally, people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder, curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? They are now. Oishi-san pondered for a bit on the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again. Got the yawns today. Well, I told you of long ago when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, didn't I? I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as the village of ogres. The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres, so Onikakushi was hallowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I could understand that. I know that. But for leaving to also be no good, that's... Also, the ogres, you see. They were being strictly watched by Oyashiro-sama, so they would not enter into our world. In other words, Oyashiro-sama probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro-sama was. It's like a prison, you can't leave. So basically, Oyashiro-sama is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, I guess. Trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world. I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I could understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So, because Reina originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed. So that means because Reina moved away against his wishes, she was cursed by Oyashiro-sama? Is that what it adds up to? In short, that seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then, why only Reina? Shouldn't Reina's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and having been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be lots of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. At most, there would be one person dying and one person disappearing on the day of the Watanagashi. I don't like the saying "at most," though. Well, anyways, there's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up as to why her classmates, the victims who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think that the victims were cowering because they believed that a terrible curse had befallen them, do you? Of course I didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Reina had made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and the metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Reina as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse, she confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon she had used at the time of that horrendous act was again a metal bat. And finally, me. I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Reina? Well, there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Reina was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with very different endings. And finally me. I couldn't call it coincidence anymore. Reina, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I was really under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No, more importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Reina was fine. Fine? Reina had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Reina residing within her. And here, right now, it was standing before me. About to kill him. Reina, please tell me. What will happen to me? Reina stood imposingly, not answering. Satoshi disappeared, but Reina didn't disappear. So what will happen to me? You're gonna get murdered. I'd never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling. Don't worry. I'll save you. Reina took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then. One step closer, Reina's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. One step closer. Reina's nose was close enough to touch mine, and was still pushing closer. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak, okay? Speak, okay? I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Reina. I had the gut feeling I couldn't let her laughter end. Because when that laughing ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast I couldn't believe it and pushed Reina away with both hands. Reina was light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she was sent backwards as if she had been carried off by the wind. After confirming that, out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. He ran away. It was a perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Reina, run away, survive. Current objective, survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto a bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I forgot about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even farther down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself grasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of that... What is that word? Simulacrum of Reina coming from behind me. I've never seen that word before. It rang through the trees and in my head, and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. Oh, he's at the dam site. The grove of trees thinned out, my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment, I was bewildered by the scenery I felt I knew but couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized. It was the dam site. The fact that I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling. Like I was following someone's scripted plot. Fourth wall breaking? I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. It was a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there was no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back, looking for an excuse to rest. Reina wasn't there. Instead, I saw two villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Reina, but a third party. Except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. The villagers walking around weren't suspicious in and of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression that they were just out for a walk. But at this time of day, two adults wandering around without a purpose, it was enough to raise questions. But more than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Oh wow, he's going to get lynched by the whole village. Was I at the end of my rope and had finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Reina would catch up with me. That was right, I was going to run. Deciding that, the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed toward me, as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I had jumped to the conclusion that Reina was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. Now the whole village is after you now. I made the assumption that I didn't need fear anything else. But right now, I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story Oishi-san told me about the demons all leaving the village to hunt prey floated through the back of my mind. I could tell they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frenetic footsteps. It was frightening being unable to shake Reina off as she slowly closed in on me, but this didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, this straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuer's arms grazed my shoulder. Now, it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but I could also hear the sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. The less time that it would take to blink twice, when this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me, and then... Don't think about that, Keiichi. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. The fact that you can't get away was a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right leg or go with the left, you just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right, left. Swinging the bat. I swung the bat in a wide arc with my right arm. Using that inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. What? The two of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both their outstretched arms, ready to grab me, instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him being able to figure it out, spun around at the spot I shouldn't have been in, and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. Shove him over. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. but just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just two people out for a walk, they were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Reina. Just by not recognizing their faces, by not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled wryly on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one is going to be right in your face, you bastard. It's fine if it was just a bluff. By barking out at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me with unbelievably calm expressions on their faces. One of them would grab onto the bat and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. I just had to settle it with the first move. I'd step in and strike the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right, who had already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. They blocked it with their arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back to it, then it was possible that the blow would travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. That's how you deal with someone with a long weapon. You get in close to them. Not good. With this distance, in this position, and in this state, there was no way for me to dodge it. Got punched in the gut. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on the soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have the time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment, the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach at full force once again, my assailant twisted around me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake his arm off me, I couldn't run and I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even imagine coming up with a phrase that adequately described my situation. And he's unconscious. Is he still at the dam site, or are they taking him somewhere else? He's back at his house. Was it all just an unpleasant dream? A familiar ceiling. The smell of the bed and pillows, I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally, there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. Reina's standing there with the axe. When I did that, pain shot throughout my entire body. Feeling all right? I think you better just lie down for a bit. Why was Reina in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and capillaries. But Reina's smile belonged to the Reina I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I was relaxed thinking that this version of Reina was safe. Why am I? Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could have ever have imagined. I guess that would be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you better just lie down until then. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the dam site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Keiichi-kun was already passed out. That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by 2 weirdos. As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those 2 for now. I didn't expect Reina to be nursing me. I thought Reina was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health. Amazing you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Reina's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the 2nd floor. Did she have some help? Don't you remember, Keiichi-kun? Reina appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile. I only propped you up with my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and that you were fine. You don't remember? I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. What about those 2? Huh? When you got there, Reina, the ones with me, or rather those 2 guys. There wasn't anyone. She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at that time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Reina. But if I did that, then this kind Reina might transform into the scary Reina who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both those men were there, I don't think Reina would have even have stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she had brought me here after those 2 were already gone. Reina was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Reina was still Reina, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi-san. Reina stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. Reina couldn't say anything else. While Reina stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang ding-dong. It must have been the doctor Reina had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take Oishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption and regretted it almost instantly. It's Mion, isn't it? Yep. Mion? Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check up on you. How did you know I collapsed? I heard from Reina over the phone. Do I need any reason other than that? I understood why she would call a doctor, but why Mion too? Reina was descending the stairs behind me. Reina, doesn't Kei-chan look pretty alright? Sheesh, you made me worry for nothing. That's true. Maybe I worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. They appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Well, what's up with the shoe rack? How did it get like this? The shoe rack I'd smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bat I was holding at the time slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself. But leaving it like this will really stall your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later. Now, come on, Kei-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Come, back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi-san. I was pushed into my bed. It was the first time Mion had been in my room, and she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Reina. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Reina, did you call the manager? Yep. Right after I called Michan. He said he'd be right over. Who's the manager? Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Reina called a doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called a manager? Who was this manager? Since Reina and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this manager? Didn't you know, Kei-chan? We mean the manager when we say manager. Well, that's obvious. Like the director of a movie. Or like a foreman of a construction site. I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Reina had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the incident, the dismemberment at the damn construction site, the foreman. But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There's no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does the manager have anything to do with me? You said he was coming. Did you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after another, but all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Reina and Mion were talking about. This is getting a little dicey, feels like. Kei-chan, you've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So who is this manager? The manager is the manager. So who is this manager? They just keep laughing and laughing and laughing till you die, Keiichi. Reina and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. That disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly. Oh yeah. We should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan? Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. Remember what? Keiichi-kun, had he forgotten, I wonder? About the penalty. About the penalty. Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi. The homework where you're supposed to guess which one Reina made. You forgot about that homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework, but I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle. So I wasn't able to answer which one Reina made. The penalty for that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. They're gonna murder him, aren't they? I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think this entire day was somehow insane. Strange. Incomprehensible. Being chased by Reina, attacked by strange men, the penalty Mion and Reina were talking about. And they're still laughing. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take me that long to realize I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Reina and Mion? Reina had gotten behind me at some point, and she's got the psycho eyes again, that's nice. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing? Don't move. This is your penalty. My body was already very sluggish, and Reina pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been impossible for the Reina that I knew. Then these thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they? Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rules, there are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Mion, no, that thing that looked like Mion, spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain that this was not Mion. What are they going to do to him? Someone who wasn't Mion, someone who was just pretending to be Mion. You need to finish this up before the manager comes. Oh no. Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. A pocket knife? Or a razor blade? I could tell what it was just by looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it. Oh, it's a gun. What is that? It was a small syringe? It was a small, clear syringe. Like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Reina held me even tighter, and I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter, it wasn't something that the Reina I knew could ever produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Reina, was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer, and that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times. Don't worry, don't worry. It won't hurt, it won't hurt. What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this at all. I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game. Dang, this is getting pretty heavy. Are they going to inject him with the virus, or are they going to do something else to him? I don't know. Stop talking nonsense to try and confuse me. You're going to have done to you what happened to Tomitake-san. What? The same as Tomitake-san? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did it have to do with this syringe? You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized it by now. Reina whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomitake-san? Everyone thought at first that it was a hit and run. Except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive, he soon noticed that it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No, nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged through? That's right. Tomitake-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. I can English, I swear. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomitake-san's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomitake-san's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused Tomitake-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist? If Mion injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomitake-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my own throat in my last moments, and then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it, at that moment, I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him? Just give up. Alright then. Mion's actions lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did someone hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. They knock him out again? I squatted down for a bit, and when I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. All his stuff had been rifled through, or the numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing into my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, only a dull silence. Reina wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? Is he going crazy, or did that actually happen? I'm so curious. There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Reina and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. Haha. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Reina nor Mion, they wouldn't ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Is she dead? Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. Oh, dang. So Keiichi went crazy and murdered both of them. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly come from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Reina. The same Reina was slumped at my feet was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down with this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? You did this, Keiichi. It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. What? Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this? That's right. Keiichi Maibara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There is no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood, there's so much. Neither Reina nor Mion had moved an inch. Well, they're dead. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just one or two strikes. Or with 2 or 3 strikes, sorry. Were they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. I keep clicking right click on accident. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. ... Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Just murdered 2 of his friends. Color came back to my vision and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remember what happened when I blacked out. They injected him with the needle. Reina and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake-san. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Reina as she was pinning my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and ran my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Reina tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat was left carelessly by the side of my desk. And then he beat him to death. Weep. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself had told me not to look and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it, didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. Then the TV was just off, and the video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, the horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the walls, and the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. Not may have, you definitely did that. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. The two of them collapsed here in Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug that would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake-san. And the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after another. Still, I might be suspected for this, but that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Reina's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth, that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The doctor Reina called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Oishi-san. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with past incidents, judging from Reina and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest, caused by the gruesome deed I'd done, dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi Maibara. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretend to be a doctor, to get me to open the door, and the rest would all rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van that tried to run him down the other day. No mistaking it. That van, the one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. But before that, there was one thing that I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of a Yashiro-sama. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why. There was one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I need to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi-san, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time, I'd only write down what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help them to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Reina and Mion did both call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but that start of the string of mysterious deaths that would follow, so then there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as such. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions. But he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important that I needed to write. Tomitaki-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug, it was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape, so it absolutely would not slip out and fall to the floor. Firmly. Firmly. Firmly grasp it. The doctor's ringing the doorbell. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore, but even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it has become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead, though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. I wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back onto the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oishi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Reina and Mion. It was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Reina, Mion. I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go, or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying, in competitions, in personal records, and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have had no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Reina and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try and kill me. Or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Yashiro-sama. Regardless, both Reina and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people who sell out their friends, regardless of whether or not they were forced. There's no way such a thing like being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then, did the real Reina and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Reina and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake, only the reality that was before me. Reina and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist facts to my benefit that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Reina and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like in my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded. And then that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. Reina and Mion. I killed them. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Reina for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake and for the sake of the late Reina and Mion, I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again, as if to urge me on. Behind this single, solitary door, they were there. And out the house he goes. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen. Headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly so as not to make a sound. There he is, the back door! He instantly got spotted. A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi. One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence, those things you use when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. Just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran. At full speed. I think you just hear the Higurashi there. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening. Trying to tell me something, and then finally I heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Quack, 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 quack. Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. Yeah, he's going crazy. So I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 I felt that only the Higurashi knew. What's this now? The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about 1/10 of the municipality's revenue. We were the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Why would you discard the 5 Manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the Mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still at Tenpai if you cut the 5 Manzu. If you're betting on a high Tay, then shouldn't you be going into it with the Mangan? Kuma-chan, look at the pond. They all discarded a 5 Manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate if, at the end of the game, someone was sitting on a Tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? If the kid let out another groan, put out a cigarette, and then took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Ron with your winning tile in that high Tay. I don't know how Mahjong works. What? Why is that? Just then, I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you here, Oishi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. Why can't you call a Ron on it? Hold on for a second, Oishi-san. The man sitting in the seat Oishi-san was heading towards waved at the telephone receiver. Outside line, from a payphone. Oh, it's Keiichi. He finally got to a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Ah, Oishi-san. Hello? If it isn't Maibara-san, why, good evening. With the tone of Maibara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time Maibara-kun had phoned me. And he was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Did something happen? Well... Ah! His voice was erratic over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, Maibara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. Impossible? His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making this call, was he? Maibara-san, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where is that payphone? There was no other sounds besides Maibara-kun's voice. It had to be a payphone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, Maibara-san. What is your current situation? It usually wasn't as good an idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. Maibara-kun didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Maibara-kun right now would just needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. Maibara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there were likely quite a few people surrounding Maibara-kun. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer stationed in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out and it will be impossible to contact them. God damn. Kuma-chan, bring the car around. Understood. Hello? Oishi-san? Hello? It's all right. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with Maibara-kun. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? Maibara-san, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple of minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Maibara-san? I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Maibara-san, who is the culprit? How many are there? I thought... At first, the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if it was a cough or vomiting. Are you alright, Maibara-san? I thought that the culprit was a person, and not a Yashiro-sama's curse, up until right now. But I guess in the end, it was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting. But I guess Oyashiro-sama does exist. No, he's here. Maibara-san, please, just please calm down. I had been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like my shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's digging itself into my back. Maibara-san, are they, right now, perhaps, right behind you? Behind me? Right behind me? Please, Maibara-san. I can tell you're scared, but please. Who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I'll... I understand that you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. Who is it? Who is behind you, Maibara-san? Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. Maibara-san, it couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat? There was no answer, but I hear something like scratching. There was a bang, as if something was being hit. Maibara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over on the other end, in a repeating abnormal noise. Hello? Hello? Maibara-san? Hello? He's dead. I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment, I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello? Maibara-san? Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra that he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Beep. Suddenly, the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. Ah. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Oishi-san, the car is good to go. Oishi-san? It was, I'm sorry. Oishi-san? That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. Queak, 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 queak. I should have been able to hear them this entire time, I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Quiet. Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. Is that the end? July 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maibara. The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, Reina Ryugu, Mion Sonozaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by strong, blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There is the possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It is hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed the suspect had for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown. When he was looking for the needle. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment and did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined the suspect had clawed at his own throat and his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With a similarity to the death of Tomitake-san the prior week, the police believe there had to be a connection and have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of the local authorities, it will be a confident investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted all of this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible that this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior, several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but was instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets from a B5 college-ruled notebook that had been torn in half. As if trying to conceal it, it was hidden behind a clock in the wall. The contents are as written in the appendix. The police believe it to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been labeled as unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from 2 separate sheets, but was originally on a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from the traces and large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, something other than the note was stuck there. The person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have a connection with the incident, Kurado Oishi. He underwent voluntary questioning, but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note: I, Keiji Maibara, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more, that have a white van. This is all on the first sheet. Everything below this has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above this has been ripped out. I have no idea why it has become like this. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. Though the only difference may be the presence or lack of a body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Keiji Maibara. So they ripped out the part with the needle. I wonder why. Why would Oishi do that? Is he involved somehow? And that's it. That's the end of Chapter 1, Onikakushi, which is the introduction into Higurashi when they cry. A new scenario has been unlocked. And then we have the all-cast review session has become available. To play it, select Extra on the title menu and then pick the all-cast review session. So for each chapter, there's a review of everything with all of the characters. That was pretty good. Like, very, very different from the anime. I'm really excited to start reading the second book, but we'll have to go back and reread the first part of this. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do the extra part. I'm not sure how long this is going to be. We're already at about 2 hours for the video, so I'll read another hour or so. Let's go ahead and get into this. Thank you for buying Higurashi When They Cry Onikakushi. I didn't actually buy this, it was free on Steam. A visual novel by 07th Expansion. How was it? If you enjoyed it even a little bit, it would make me happy. It was really good, I loved it. Even a little bit is stretching it. That incredibly dark ending made me angry, you know? It made us angry. Yeah, Sadako and Rika weren't in the ending at all. As I understand it, this Onikakushi chapter is supposed to be somewhat of a prologue to the entire series. How could the prologue have such an incredibly dark ending? Yeah, but doesn't that happen sometimes? The player digging through the story in order to avoid a bad ending is the point of these types of games after all. The reason they're talking about that is there was no choices in the first chapter. Apparently into the second chapter we start getting choices, and then you get more and more choices as the game goes on. It's still just the first chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah, so am I. What happens in the next chapter? Reina, do you know? Yeah, they said the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story. That's a strange way of putting it. What does that mean? In this chapter, they introduced the string of mysterious deaths that were happening in Hinamizawa recently, right? The next chapter will introduce some of the history of Hinamizawa. With one strange event happening after another, I got totally lost. What exactly is Oyashiro-sama's curse about? Actually, what is Oyashiro-sama to begin with? They didn't explain it much. I haven't heard much about it, but I have kind of a bad feeling about it. It feels like it'll be another one of those scary stories where somebody gets cursed again. And tough luck, eh, Kei-chan? What kind of curse is he gonna get hit with this time? However, I am looking forward to see what kind of story it's going to be. Well, Oishi's here. Sorry for being late, my bad. And Tomitake's back too. Hey everybody. Good work today. Same to you. Huh? Where's Kei-chan? Keiichi-kun is already off reading the script for the next chapter. Oh, so they're acting like they're actors in like the story. Oh, that's great. I love this. It must be hard being the main character. Huh? That's too bad. He could have at least poked in to say hello. It's probably because he doesn't have any character art, so he couldn't poke his head in even if he wanted to. Yeah, that's true. In the visual novels, I don't think you get to see him. Rika-san, that's what we refer to as a personal problem. In any case, that story really was a lot of trouble, especially for Keiichi-kun and Reina-chan. Trouble? That was the mother of all bad ends. I wonder, what was the identity of the thing that attacked Keiichi-kun? My theory is that it was the work of people made to look like a curse. But at the end, Keiichi made that phone call. Yeah. I also thought that call was strange. At that point, Kei-chan should have been certain that the culprits were people. That really was a strange phone call. It almost sounded like he was being chased by a ghost or something. Just from that phone call, it really makes me think this is a work of a curse after all. But since we're all here, why don't we all share our theories? Let's start with Sonozaki-san. I absolutely believe it was people. I think it was a man-made incident that was just imitating the strange folklore floating around Hinamizawa. Certainly. Every year on the day of the festival, for another link in the chain of mysterious deaths to happen certainly is suspicious. That so-called chain of mysterious deaths is definitely somebody trying to reenact the folklore. Definitely. I think it was the curse. Looking at the scene where Keiichi-san went berserk in the entryway, and that last scene on the phone call, I just couldn't come to the conclusion that a person was the culprit. When you say it that way, it really wasn't the type of scene that would make you think it was the work of an actual person. Yeah, but even then, I still think it was a person who did it. That last scene and the one with the entryway, I think it might have been a delusional episode, brought about by post-traumatic stress disorder. I wouldn't know what's going on anymore, even if you didn't use such complicated words. In other words, Keiichi was so scared that he was imagining things. Then, what was the meaning behind that scene? What exactly was the mysterious presence behind Keiichi? A red herring? R-E-D-H-E-R-R-I-N-G. Michan, what do you mean by a red herring? Like old man Tomitake here said, that scene was the result of Kei-chan having a stress-induced delusion from being mentally cornered. To expand on that a bit further, it was a ploy to make the player think it was the curse. That's why it was a red herring. When you say it like that, but... well, it just means that there's that possibility. In that case, the theory that Oishi-san proposed during the story that it was a conspiracy by the villagers was correct? What does the man himself have to say about that? Me? It makes you think, eh? Huh? I totally thought Oishi-san would be behind the people explanation. During the story, I said it was definitely the work of people, but if a person really was to blame, that leaves a lot of loose ends. Like what? Let us hear what Detective Oishi-san's theory is. First of all, if a human was the culprit, then there has to be a motive. In other words, somebody has to gain something from it. So what you mean is, if this is the work of a people, there would be something gained from causing the chain of mysterious deaths? Exactly. I felt that somebody could have benefited from the deaths of people related to the dam development, but the recent victims weren't related to that at all. First off, who benefits from killing Keiichi-kun? I see. If you say it like that, my case is kind of weak too. I mean, none of your money was stolen. There's no way it was human culprits. But that's not everything there is to it, right? Like Michan just said, there might have been some sort of reason for them to reenact the folklore. Exactly. This wasn't a murder where you consider the typical motives. It makes you think that this was most likely some sort of ritualistic murder to reenact the blood-stained history of the village. So, I'll ask the question of the hour, who gains from this reenactment? It's not about simple benefit, it's a more psychological reason. I think that maybe this was an act of revenge. Something native to the region. Fate was unable to be fooled this time around. I see. A member of some repressed family looking to air out an old grudge of their ancestors, something like that? I don't like that. Then what was it? It couldn't be that you're leaning towards the curse explanation, Oishi-san. That's right, that's right. The man playing the detective said so. It's decided, it was a curse. If, like how Maibara-san said during the story, it was the case that Oyashiro-sama possessed Reina-san and Sonozaki-san and committed those acts, that would fit the evidence the most, as much as I hate to say it. Actually, I'm of the same opinion as Oishi-san. I can't come up with any other explanation for the normally kind Reina and Michan to suddenly start acting strange like that. About that, it may sound strange coming from the person herself, but I think that I, Mion, did it. I don't get what Mi is saying. I'd like an explanation. Oh, sorry. In other words... You're the odds, man. I think that this may end up being a really cruel story. Wait, Michan. You don't mean... If you follow the trail of evidence to the very end, that's how it would seem. I also have my suspicions. In other words, Reina-san and Sonozaki-san both actually had those personalities to begin with, and were merely deceiving Maibara-san. Am I right? I don't like that at all! It's extremely cruel. This is all the curse's fault. Reina-san and Mion-san and everybody else are all kind, nice people. I think that too. I think that Reina and Mion-chan are really good people at heart. I think that during the story, they were definitely possessed by something. So Reina also thinks it was a curse. Then let me ask everybody who thinks it was a curse. There has to be a reason for a curse, right? I don't think there would be something indiscriminately cursing everything. Can somebody explain that? A curse is a curse. Human logic won't get us anywhere. Sadako-chan. A personified deity is, in the end, nothing more than the creation of people. That's why their method of thinking is also understandable to humans. Just take a look at the Greek pantheon. They cry, get angry, get jealous. Basically, they're just like humans. So what you're saying is that Oyashiro-sama is cursing people with some benefit in mind? That's an odd way of putting it, but basically yes. That's why they say, far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. You do have a point. Basically, it doesn't matter if it's Oyashiro-sama or humans, there has to be a reason. But, Rika, what if that reason isn't clear? I don't know. That's right. This is still just the prologue. There's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet. Yeah, it's hard to come up with any more theories at this point. No, I won't be satisfied until all this is made clear. Mion-san seems rather particular about this as well. We'll just make the best of what we know. Doesn't this feel interesting, like the club a little bit? Yeah. If you put it that way, it does seem interesting. Well then, let's summarize. Let's see, I think it was a curse. Tomitaki-kun thinks it was people, right? Yeah. I'll go with it being people. I also agree with the people explanation. That's not to say I hate such fantastic things like curses. But in this particular case, the connection to a curse is a little weak. 2 for the people explanation then. Reina-san was on the curse side of things, right? Yep. Sadako-chan and I believe it was a curse. Right? Yeah, I think it was a curse. People who say that Reina-san and Mion-san were evil to begin with are more befitting of a curse. Well, I don't want to believe that my own personality was that twisted. But I have to be cool when I'm in club mode. If I base my choice on just emotion, I'll regret it, you know? Well now, it doesn't really matter which side you pick, does it? Huh? Rika-chan hasn't said anything yet. What do you think? I don't think that Oyashiro-sama is a bad god. Huh, that's an interesting opinion. I don't want to worship some bad god that just curses people. I'd like a generous god more than one that curses. That's right, Rika-chan is a shrine maiden. Yep, good opinion. Then what? If Rika-chan doesn't believe that it was Oyashiro-sama, then you think the perpetrators were human after all? So they're just split evenly? We'll just go with that. Well now, that means the votes are split right down the middle. So half of us think it was a curse, and half of us think it was people. I think it's a mix of both. Reina-chan, just for reference, what did the test players who played the beta version think? Yeah, there were a lot more players who believed in the people explanation. See, right there. Our veteran comrades are cool, collected, and very observant. But the beta version only finished partway through the story. That's right. Even the people who played the beta might change their minds if they got through to the very end. What should we do then? This means that the opinions are still split. It's no fun if we don't settle this. We need there to be an odd number of judges, in other words. We need one more opinion. Are they going to break the fourth wall? Ah, perfect timing then. Why don't we ask Keiichi-kun himself? Let's call him. The opinion of the victim himself is very valuable. Since that's decided, it's time for the phone. Hello, Keiichi-kun? It's Reina. Are you busy with work right now? Yeah, really busy. This one I thought I'd get a break because the chapter's over. It's already time for the next one. How's Kei-chan? Busy? Yeah, he's mopping. Or moping. I can hear you, you know. It must be nice having a wrap-up party. I wanted to go too. You can come if you get some character art for yourself. Rika, that's a secret. I think he gets character art later on, right? Sorry about that, Keiichi-kun. Anyways, during the current chapter, Keiichi-kun, didn't you die? We were just talking about who the culprit might be. Basically, we're deadlocked on whether it was people or Yashiro-sama's curse that killed you. I'm really sorry, even though you're busy reviewing the script, Keiichi-kun, what do you think it was? That's obvious, isn't it? Which? Isn't it both of them? Targeted by suspicious people from the village and then cursed by some strange Oyashiro-sama on top of that? It's both humans and a curse. See? I knew it. I knew Keiichi would pick that. Everybody's just picking on me. So very, very pitiful. Next time, I'll pat you on the head for you. In the end, the opinion's still split, huh? I'll think this over again. We might have missed something. Well then, please look forward to the next release, Higurashi When They Cry, Watanagashi. And that's the end of that, it looks like. Unless we're gonna get like a little, like, preview of the next chapter. Probably not, though. Yep, that's it. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. The next probably 2 videos will just be a recap of the first part of this series because I live streamed it. And I just really want to go back and reread it because I felt like the live stream really just took away from the story. So there'll be some, I'll probably start doing that tomorrow. I'll get through it and then probably be 2 or 3 videos. But I'll probably upload most of them at the same time. And then we'll start and get into Chapter 2, Onikakushi. So look forward to that. If you do like the series, please let me know. Leave a comment down below. And of course, keep yourselves hydrated. Have a good day. And I will see you all later. Goodbye.